Alright everyone, now we're getting into the project. So our project for this is going to be about dates. The idea is that the user inputs something like this, which is a string, and it's going to be two numbers followed by a backslash, followed by two numbers, followed by a backslash, followed by four numbers. So that would be the month, month, day, day, year, year, year format. And it needs to be separated by a backslash. So we want to create a program that asks the user for a date in the following format and then returns back the date spelled out, and it will save all the dates into a data structure, and then at the end it will write it out to a txt file. So our example input being 12/25 2000, our example output, it'll be December 25th 2000. So this sounds like it's going to be really easy, but there are a lot of edge cases, which is why I picked this kind of project. So some things that we're looking at here to think about. The date will be rather easy. No matter what the input is, that'll have a direct output. But the numbers can be difficult. For instance, if they input 01, I want it to say first. And if they input 02, it'll say second. And 3 will be third. And then fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. And then 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th. They all have different endings at the end of the number. So that will be something that we have to think about, and then of course this year will be very easy. So tools to be used, we're going to use the IO stream, we're going to use the F stream because we're going to write to a file. Something that we haven't really covered yet, an array is a string of characters. We're going to talk about that. We want to parse our input into three smaller inputs. So we're going to take this one very large input here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 characters. 10 characters long, and we want to parse it into three smaller ones containing the 12, containing the 25, and containing the 2000. So we're going to show you guys how to manipulate strings, because a string is just an array of characters. And again, parse it into three smaller inputs, and we're going to use the string to integer function that will be used. And here's just our logic. So we're going to create variables, prompt the user for the input, parse the string into three smaller strings. We're going to have a function called convert month, a function called convert day. It's going to return a boolean, a true or a false. If there are errors, if there are no errors, then we'll add to our data structure. That means that it was a correct input. And if there are errors, we will not add it to the data structure, and we will display an error. We'll then ask the user if they want to print the items, printing them being to a file. And now we're going to get started. So let's get into our file, file new, and then we're in CPP, and then we're going to call it project. If we use the Mac, and then source file, proj.cpp. Okay, so let's walk through this. We want to include the input, output library, and fstream. And then we want to create prototypes for our functions, create prototypes, and then we want to int main is used to begin the program. And I'm just going to create our int main here, and then put all other comments inside our int main. So create array and variables. Let's use a do while loop as our logic. Within our do while loop, Then our do while loop, the first thing, let's ask the user for a date, ask user to input a date, and then we will parse date into three strings, month, day, year, and then we will call functions to see if they are legit. And then let's then we'll prompt user to print out the dates, and then we will return the value of 0 to end the program. Alright, let's walk with this so far and let's see what happens. So we're going to walk through this sequentially. So include IOStream, include FStream, include using namespace standard, create prototypes. So I said that these are going to be booleans, so it's going to be boolean return type, and we're going to call it convert month, and it's going to take in a string, and we're going to call it month, and then we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to copy this, paste, and it's going to be convert day, and it's going to take a string, and it's going to be a day. I want to save it just so that the using namespace standard will get rid of my errors for the string, because those aren't errors. Now we're going to create some variables. So let's create a string array, string, and we'll call it date holder, and we'll have it hold 100 dates. And then we're going to create a counter. So int date holder counter equals 0, because the first write I want it to write to the index of 0, and then let's create a string for the user's input. So we'll call it user input or user date. Then let's create a string to print the dates. Alright. Okay. So now in our do while loop, so we do, and then at the end of our do is our while, and we will come back to our condition to check for what we want, what's going to be the ending condition. For instance, I know that the ending condition is going to be when the user date does not equal, and it's going to be a string input, a -1. So when the user inputs -1, that will break it. So as long as the user input does not equal -1, then this loop will continue. So the user's input of -1 is what will break out of this loop. So the first thing we want to do, let's do a cout, and we will tell the user to enter a date, month, day, year. So telling the user to enter, and then we'll tell them -1 to exit. Okay. And then after this, we now want to prompt the user for their input. The way we do that is we go cin, because there's not going to be any spaces in there. It's all going to be one long line. So we can use our cin, and we're putting that into user date. So after we ask the user for their input, we are then going to see if user date equals -1, we will break. Reason why I'm doing that right here is because I don't want it to make these calls, because I want it to display an error. So yeah, that would be our best way to break out of our loop. But with that being said, now that means we can also pretty much make this a while true, because the condition to break out of our loop is this. It'll do it right here. But I just so that you guys can see it, we're going to leave it like that for now. I'm curious if why it's giving me these errors that it thinks it has. But anyways, let's ask user. Oh, sorry, I should probably have all these go in the appropriate spots. Ask user for input. Next, we're going to parse date into 3 strings of the month, day, year. We're going to do that right now. So that's going to go right here. So we're going to create a string, and it is going to be a month. and it is going to equal, and now I have to do a string call. This comes from the using namespace standard. This string is going to be used when we want to concatenate a bunch of characters. So a string is an array of characters. So all that means is what a string is each index within the string is an array of different characters. That's exactly how a string was created. So the way that I take a bunch of characters and add them all together to make a string, you have to use this string call in the beginning. So I'm doing string plus, and then I want my month to be the first two indexes. So that'll be user date of index 0 plus user date of index 1, and my dogs are starting to go crazy right now. Hopefully they can chill out. So string month, now we're doing day equals string, and I want to add, this time I'm going to skip the second index because the second index, or what sits at index 2, is actually going to be the backslash. So I want to go grab 3, and I want to go grab 4, and the next thing I want to do is for year, copy year, and then year, of course, I'm going to skip 5, so I want to store 6, I want to store 7, and then I want to repeat this to store 8 and 9. Store 8 and store 9. So that should be good. And now we've concatenated everything there. And now we're going to do if, and we're going to call our function. So we're going to call convert month, passing in month. So that closes that. So if that is true, or if this is true, and this is going to be convert day, sorry, I didn't need that, convert day, and that takes in day. So if this is true, or this is true, then that means that we have an error. If they return false, then we are going to execute the else portion, and that would be no error. So in here, that means error found. If an error is found, then we want to cout did not add, try again. And then we'll tell them specifically to use the format month, day, year, and give them a period. I don't want to write anything because I don't want to confuse the user. I don't want to put a period or an exclamation point. So we did not add it. Now let's go see what we're going to do in the else statement. In the else statement, that means no errors, add to array. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to do date holder, that is the name, and then the index is going to be date holder counter. It's going to equal the month plus a space plus the day plus, and now in this one I want to do a comma space plus the year, and all of that is going to be stored into whatever index of that string array. So we're taking a string, we're adding a whole bunch of things together in our string, and then we're storing that into whatever index of our string array. And then we're going to cout added item. And then I'm going to specifically say what it added. It added date holder. I'm just going to copy all this. Copy. That is exactly what it added. And then I want to tell date holder counter to go to the next item. Now let's clean our user input. So when the user comes back to use it for the next input, it's going to be wiped to nothing. So that way there's nothing left in it. in case that it got a bad input, I want it to be completely wiped clean for when we go back to the top of our while loop and everything is okay. So I really don't like that it is it's given us that error, and that's what it was. It wanted the semicolon at the end of the while. So we have date holders giving us an error. Why is that? Did I spell it wrong? No. Convert, that's spelled wrong. Convert month. And why is date holder being like that? Oh, it's because I didn't spell it right up there. That's why. Date holder. Cool. So that is our. Now let's go in and let's do our definitions. This is going to be lengthy. So at the bottom here, let's define these. So this is going to be actually a lot. So we're going to walk through this pretty slowly. Now let's put the comments in the right section. So call functions to see if it's legit. That's this portion here. We're calling the functions. Prompt user to print out the dates. We have still yet to do that. That is going to be at the end. So right now I'm just working of all the logic within this do while loop. So the first thing we want to do is for our convert month. So this is going to be pretty tedious. We want to check if string equals a month. So the way we're going to do that is a bunch of if statements. If month equals 0, 1, then if that's the case, then I'm going to assign month to equal January. Okay, now let's think about this. I'm going to utilize this parameter that I'm passing in as a reference parameter. So let's go here and let's make the modification of everything we pass in is going to be passed by reference. And I want to do that because whatever I pass in, I want to modify within this function, and then I want that to be changed in the actual cout, or in the actual int main portion. So whatever I utilize, however I edit things within these functions, will also be edited here too. So as long as I know that moving forward, then I'll be okay. If I didn't plan for that ahead of time, then any edits would completely mess up the entire program, but you guys will see why I'm doing that. So now let's do an else if, and then of course I need to do the same thing, month equals, and now I'm doing 0, 2. And this is going to month equals February. February. Okay. Now I'm going to copy, paste, paste. That's probably too much, but that's all right. And you guys can definitely fast forward through this. This is very tedious, but this is part of it. So 03, 04, 05, 06, 07, 08, 09, 10, 11, 12. Okay. So January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December. Whew, okay, so let's think about everything that we've done so far. We still need to think about our return type, which is a return type of a Boolean, so a true or a false. So if all of this happens, so if it equals 0, 1, if it equals 0, 2, if it equals 0, 3, if any of these things happen, then that means that it will not continue in this if statement. So if one of these conditions is true, let's say the input is 0, 1, then that means that none of these other else statements will be executed. But we can also think about it that if I've reached the entire exit, the last line of code, and all of these else statements did not turn out to be true, that means that none of these inputs were correct. And if none of these inputs were correct, that means we have a faulty input. And a faulty input, we want to return true. So we want to return true, and then I'll put in comments, we return true with a bad input. And then after all this, I can do return false. So let's, and we return false with a valid input. So let's walk through this logic, because I understand it could be just a little bit confusing. So let's say the user inputs 06. So the month that comes in is 06. So it goes and check. Is month equal 01? No. 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 Here it is true. So if month, which is 06, equals 06, it's going to change the month to now be June. So, and it's passed by reference. So it's taking the 06 input and it's replacing it with the month of June. And now it has now satisfied an else if statement, so it's done with all of the if statements. So all of these will now be skipped. And because all of these are skipped, it's not going to return true, which means it's going to go execute the next line of code, which is false. So now, because we got a valid input, this is going to return false back to our calls here. And keep in mind, the only thing that has to happen with an OR operation is only one of these has to return true for us to say that it was a bad input. So because our month was a correct input, so far it's good. It returned false, so we did not turn on the if statement yet. Now it's going to go check the same thing for day. Now if both month and day are valid inputs, then both of these will return false. False or false will return a false, which means it's going to go execute the else portion. And the else portion is the fact that we are adding to the data structure, we are adding the item, and then incrementing the counter. So that's my logic, is that I want to have the Boolean return true for a bad input and return false for a good input. So now let's give an example of a bad input. I'm sorry, of a bad input. So let's say the month is 13. Obviously we know that there is no 13th month. So it's going to check, is it 01? No. Is it 2? No. All the way to the end. Is it 12? No. So now all of these have not been satisfied, which means it's going to execute the else statement. When it hits return true, it's going to return true back to the user, and it's done. It's not going to go and execute any of the code after. Once it gets its return true, it is completely done with this function call, and it's going to return it back to the user. And it doesn't matter what the other input is. If this right here returns true, then the entire thing, it did not add, and it will tell the user to try again. Okay, so that was the easier of the two. Now, this is going to be the harder of the two, the convert day. So the way we want to convert day, let's first talk about it logically. So I'm going to create a location of comments. Did I do it wrong? Is it backslash? There we go. So now this is how you create multiple lines of comments. So just like this, I did backslash and then asterisk, and then all of this in here is comments. So all of this that I type within here is all comments. This is, again, all comments. And the way that you end your section of comments is asterisk backslash again. So everything within this block is all comments, not to be read by the compiler. So let's talk about logic. So let's talk about the STs. The ST is going to be the first, next is second, so that would be the ND second, which is 2. And then the next is third, so that's RD, and that would be for the value of 3. And next is fourth, that's TH, so fourth. And then we also have fifth, and then sixth, seventh, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th. So from 4 through 20 is a TH. And then 21st, so that comes here, 21st, and then we have 22nd, then we have 23rd, and then back here 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th. So 24 through 30 is all TH again, and then we have the 31st. And that would be all the days in the month. So now if we get an input of 1, 21, or 31, we need to add ST to the end of it. If we get an input of 2 or 22 and ND 3 or 23, RD, and 4 through 20, and then 24 through 30 is a TH. So I want to make this as versatile as possible. So, which means I also don't want the user to input anything above a 31. So this is going to be a little bit difficult logically. So I'm going to show you guys how I think it'd be the best way to come about it. And we also got to keep in mind that this input is different. So if we get an input of 0, 1, or I'll explain that. But the input of 0, 1 is going to be different than the input of 21st because I don't want it to display back to the user January 0, 1, 2000. I would want it to say January 1st, 2000. So 1, 2, and 3, we're going to have to erase the first character in front. So we want to think of it like this, that we're going to have 2 of these. So it's going to look like this. These are all the conditions that we're going to have to create. Each condition has the following. And then we also want to do the same thing for TH. TH 4 through 9 is all going to be its own, and then 10 through 20. So that should be all of the cases. I might think of more as we move on, but if we get 0, 1, then that means we need to get rid of the 0 in front of it, so it just displays first. Because the user input is month, day, day, so the user would input 0, 1. So we have to get rid of that leading 0, and do the same thing for the 2, same thing for the 3, and everything from 4 through 9. So let's get into it. So let's do if day equals 0, 1. If the day equals 0, 1, then we're going to say day equals, and then I want to take a string of characters and I want to concatenate them. So that's the string plus day 1, 1 plus st. So now day is going to hold, so let's look at day. Day, of course, as we all know, a string is an array of characters. So day is going to come in as the value of 0, 1. So what that means is the first index, 0, is actually, well, that's a bad example. We'll use 24th. So the 24th is the date inputted. The 0th index is a char of 2. And then the first index is the char of 4. So I don't care about the leading number because in our instance, in the 0, 1 instance, it's a 0. And I don't want to report that back to the user. I only want to give them what sits in index 1, which for the 0, 1 case is that I'm getting rid of this 0, which is at index 0, and I'm only going to give them back what sits at index 1, which is 1. So that works for that instance. And now let's do else, if, and let's copy all this. So if day equals 21, or day equals 31, then I want to add the string plus day 0 this time because I want to have I am going to want to have the leading number. I don't just want to input 1 and 1, I want it to say 21st or 31st. So that works there. So then let's copy this and let's do it again. I can already feel my computer getting real slow. It's delaying within these pastes. Okay, so we just did this one here, so now run else if day equals, and what's going to be 0, 2. If day equals 0, 2, then we want it to only display the 0 and then the second. And then we want to do the same thing here. If it equals 22, and we don't have a second check there, but if it equals 22, then I want it to display both of them, and then I want it to end with 22nd, and then the next one is going to be 22, so the next one should be what, 03, I believe? 03, and if they input 03, then I only want the second character, and that would be a third. And then the last one is going to be a 23. Again, I don't care about this second check. And then I want both of these. Okay, so let's walk through these, see if I made any mistakes in here. So if day equals 0, 1, then I'm dropping the 0 and just returning first. If it equals 21 or 31, then I'm returning 21st or 31st. If it equals 0, 2, I'm dropping the 0 and returning the second. If it equals 22, I'm keeping the 2, 22nd. If it equals 0, 3, then I am dropping the 0, returning third. 23, I'm keeping the 2, keeping the 3, and oh, this needs to be RD. 23rd. Okay, so that looks good so far. Now, if none of those return true, then we're going to get into our else portion, and this is going to be a little bit big. So that means if it's not the first, if it's not the 21st, if it's not the 31st, if it's not the second, the 22nd, the third, or the 23rd, so we have sufficed for this one, we've sufficed for this one, we've sufficed for this one, this one, this one, this one. So all of these are taken care of. Right now what we're focusing on are these. Now I want to do conditional checks, and you can't do that with strings, so I'm going to convert these strings to integers to do some checking. So the way that you can convert is we're going to convert from string to integer, and of course you can only do this when it's guaranteed that your string is an integer. Obviously this wouldn't work if it wasn't the case. So let's do int temporary equals, and there's a function called stoi, which stands for string to integer. So s is string, to is 2, I is integer, and what am I converting from string to integer? Day. Because the day in this case, now it means the day is anywhere from 04 to 09, or 10 to 20, or 24 to 30, or it just means that it was none of these. So all of these I want to convert. And then the first thing I want to do is I want to check if temporary is greater than or equal to 4, and temporary is less than or equal to 9. So if that is the condition, then I want to do I still have it saved? No, I don't. Actually, I will utilize this. So if that's the case, then I want to, of course, drop our leading 0. So we're going to get rid of our leading 0, plus, and then for the fourth, that is a th. So if it's anywhere between the value of 4 and 9, then we're going to drop the leading 0, save the second character, and then add a th. So that's be the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th. And then we want to do an else if, and now we're checking else if. I'm just going to copy all of this. That would be way easier. Copy, get rid of our if, and then repaste it. So now if our value is greater than 10 and less than 20, so we're going to turn less than 20, or, so now let's also put this in its own parentheses. So if it is greater than 10 and less than 20, so that means we're in this pocket here, or if it is greater than 24 and less than 30, then we also want to do the following. So that would be need to put this inside our parentheses, temporary is greater than or equal to 24, and temporary is less than or equal to 30. Whew. So if all of this happens, then we want to add day 0, Plus day 1, we want to add a th. Okay, I think we are sitting good so far. But now let's think about something. So let's say I'm going to give you a number. So we're going to do the number of 32. So number 32 comes in. None of these suffice. Obviously, we all know it's not a 32. Does not sit in any of these, which means we're in our else statement now. Now within our else statement, we are then doing more if-else statements. So 32 again is our number. Obviously 32 is not between 4 and 9. 32 is not between 10 and 20. It is also not in between 24 and 30. So now if we get to this last else statement, then we know for sure that we have an invalid input. So an invalid input, we want to return true. And return true, I'm just going to copy all this because I want it to say the same thing. So that'll paste it. And then we want to close this else statement here. So I'm going to close my else statement right there. Get rid of that last curly brace because we don't need it. Okay, let's walk through this logically. So again, our input is the number of 32. 32 does not suffice any of these, obviously. 32, as we already checked, is not in between 4 and 9. It's not in between 10 and 20, and it's not in between 24 and 30. So 32 is an invalid input, in which case we will return true. And because we return true, we break out of this function altogether, so that return false is never returned. If any of these happen, so if it equals 1, 21, 31, 2, 22, 3, 23, or 4 to 9, 10 to 20, or 24 to 30, if any of these become true, then it's going to execute what's in that block there, and then it's going to break out of the if-else's completely, so then it will return false. It will return false if we got a valid input. So let's run back up to our if statement. Our original if statement. Sorry, there's a lot of if statements. So if convert month or convert day. So if either one of these return true, true means invalid input. So if month is invalid or if day is invalid, then we do not add it and we tell them to use a better format. If both of these return false, which means valid input and valid input, then we will add it to the data structure. We will tell the user that the date is added, and we will display what was added, and then we increment our counter. And then we continuously do this until the user is done with their inputs. They're done with their inputs when they enter a -1. Okay, now we are done with our functions. Now let's get into prompting the user for their if they want to continue, and if they want to continue, then we will print it back to the user, or put it in a file. Cout, print dates, question mark, print dates, question mark. Oh, and then we need to tell them yes or no. So endl, and then I'm going to use this input here. That's what I'm going to grab from the user. Cin. Print dates is what they're going to see in, and I'm expecting a y or an n. So if print dates equals capital Y, or print dates, just in case they're bad at following directions and they input a lowercase y, I just want it to work for all cases. So if the dogs are hurting each other. We just asked the user for print dates. If they do want to print the dates, then we're going to create an upstream, and we're going to call it fout.open. This is us creating the file, and we're just going to call it your dates.txt. So we just created that file, and now we need to do for int I equals 0, I is less than the date holder counter, because this is going to give us the total number of items that we have sitting inside of our data structure. That's what our counter is good for. So if that is the case, then I want to fout. I'm going to print to the file, and I'm going to print to the file of everything that's inside of our data structure, which is our array. So we have the print date, and then we'll do an endl, because I want there to be spacing. So that looks good so far. Now let's do some testing. This is going to be really slow, I can already tell you that. Build and play it. So, giving me an error. Binary not found. I don't see any, no errors jump out at me, and I definitely, it didn't present itself with an error. Did it not build correctly? My computer being so slow it's not building? There we go. Month, day, year. I'm going to break it. I'm going to go 13 is the month, 21, 2000. Should, did not add. Try again. Okay, let's try a different one. Let's try 01, 01, 2001. Okay, that was valid. I'm going to make this a lot bigger. I'll just full screen this thing. Date added January 1st, enter a new date. Okay, so I noticed that I need to do an endel after the date added. So where is that? Date added here. So I need to do an endel because that bothers me that I don't have proper spacing. So I'm going to save it, build it, and run it again. So to fix that error. Then we'll try all the cases that we have. So let's try all the months, followed by all these special conditions that we have here. I'm going to test all of these specifically. So let's do the first one. So let's go 01, 01, 2000. So I just tested the month of 01, and I just tested the input of 01, and it returned first with no leading 0. So that's correct. Next, let's do 02, 02, 2002. Again, it dropped the leading 0, and it gave me the February 2nd, so that was a correct input. Next, let's do 03, 03, 2003, March 3rd, 2003, that is valid. 04, 04, 2004. And 4th. Now, I know that the 4th through the 9th are all the same, so I'm going to try just 05, 09, just to check and see what it looks like over there, 2005. May 9th, 2005, good. Now I'm going to check 06, 20, because that is also one of our edge cases that we have. The 20th is on the top side, so 2, 3, 5, good. And then we'll go 07, and then we want to check our next edge case. So let's check 24, and then we'll check 30, 24, 2018. And then we'll check 08, 30, 2020, and then we will check, let's check 11, 31, 2020, and that is actually, I mean, that should be like invalid, you know, but I guess it doesn't have the ability to check that. Like, it doesn't have the ability to know that there's only a certain amount of days in February. So like February 31st would be valid in this instance. That's just something to think about. It doesn't have error checking in that fashion, but let's try February 32nd. This should produce an error. Did not add, try again. So it's because that was too high. So there is no error checking on our dates. Like I could do January 1st of 3000, and of course that's going to be okay. And then another thing, I could also put it with periods. Oh, sorry, 09 period 09 period 2009. So it doesn't have to be a backslash. The program just knows to skip everything that is in index 2, because that's index 1, that's index, or I'm sorry, that's index 0, that's index 1, the period is index 2, index 3, index 4, and then it also skips what's at index 5. So it skips index 2, it skips index 5, so I can really put whatever I want in there, and it'll skip it. So here's an example of us doing that, and I'll do it with zeros. So 090, 090, 2009. So it's the same date that I did above, I just swapped it with zeros, September 9th, 2009, September 9th, 2009. And now let's try our -1 to exit. Let's see if that's valid. -1, it exited our loop, and now do we want to print dates? Yes or no? Yes, I want to print dates. And it should have just printed it to a file. And let's minimize this, and let's look over in our file, and let's see if we have a file just got created called your dates that holds all the dates that we just entered. Terrific. Now let's just play with it one more time. So let's 0929 2020. Cool, that worked. 01 05 2005. Cool, so it looks like it's working. So no matter what we're going to input, it's always going to give us the right date. So no matter what we want to do, this looks like it works. So, and then we will minimize, and then we'll come back over here, and let's look at our dates. And oh, so I was wrong. For those of you that that listen to my F-stream video, in the F-stream video, I mentioned that that it will not overwrite all of these following lines. I was incorrect. Obviously, it does. So it looks like it'll completely rewrite to the file. So it'll overwrite the entire file. So that's pretty interesting, opposed to just overwriting those specific lines. But that concludes our project. I hope this made sense, and I tried to go through it in a pretty slow manner. I didn't want to speed through everything, so I hope this made sense. If you guys have any questions, again, ask for help. That's exactly what we're here for. I hope to see you guys in our next portion, our next series of videos. Things will start to get a little bit more complex there, so hopefully the pace is steady for you guys. All right, I'll see you guys over there.